Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jill Baird. Thank you for joining me on my channel and here in my home yoga fitness studio. Today I have a beginner yoga flow. If you're not a beginner, don't worry. I promise it's still going to feel really good, but I'm going to cue for beginners. We're going to take it really slow. We're going to work on opening up our shoulders and our chest, opening up our hips, strengthening the muscles that help support our posture, and just finding some grounding and breath to moving meditation. You need a mat for your practice, some space around you where you can extend your arms, lift your legs. And then I do suggest having 2 blocks. They are not necessary. I'm going to go ahead and grab mine. I just realized I didn't have them sitting out. Blocks are really useful for helping to bring the ground closer to you, and we use them in a few other ways in class. So if you have 2 blocks, put them at the top of your mat, and if you don't, no worries. We're going to start our practice today in child's pose. So come towards the back of the mat in a kneeling position. Bring your big toes to touch. Knees towards the wider edges of your mat. Sit your hips back onto your heels, and then just go ahead and crawl yourself forward. Bring the tip of your nose and your forehead down to the mat. Maybe do a gentle massage from side to side on your forehead. That's said to be your third eye there, your center of intuition. And all together, we're going to take a few rounds of cleansing breath. So through your nose, take a nice, deep, expansive inhale. Allow your breath not only to lengthen from your throat to your tailbone, but also to widen. So think about creating a lot of space in your torso. So maybe your ribs begin to flare or maybe even touch your inner thighs. And with a ha sound, make an open mouth exhale and empty out that breath completely. Again, let's take a nice deeper, fuller inhale, drawing that breath all the way down into the bottom lobes of the lungs, into the belly, expanding the side body. And an open mouth exhale, side out. Inhale through your nose, create space, not only in your body, but maybe begin to create some space in your mind. And with an open mouth exhale, a controlled exhale, empty out. And now we're going to seal our lips closed, and we're going to continue to take those nice, steady, expansive inhales through the nose. And with sealed lips, we're going to continue to create that ha sound as we exhale through our nose. So if you had a little mirror underneath your nose, it would fog when you exhale. And we're going to take a few rounds here to build this breath. And what I mean by that is inhaling for a slow count of 5 or 6, and then matching that inhale as you exhale for a slow count of 5 or 6. And whether you're home alone or you have a house full of people, make that breath audible. We want to be able to hear the breath. And on your next inhale, go ahead and come up to all fours in a tabletop position. So wrists and palms underneath the shoulders, hips underneath the knees. On an inhale breath, we're going to drop the belly, lift the gaze and lift the hips, cow pose. And exhale, press the mat away, tuck, round, and curl, cat pose, broadening through the upper back as you draw your tailbone down to the mat. Inhale, cow, without actually moving your palms, pull them back towards your knees. Draw your shoulder blades in towards one another and tuck them down towards your back pockets. Exhale, cat, pull your belly button back towards your spine, chin in towards your chest, crown of the head drawing towards the mat. And let's flow 3 more rounds with your own breath. Using your inhale entirely to come into cow as slowly as you can, opening the front of your chest. And exhaling back to cat, rounding the back here, opening up the upper back. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat. Maybe press your shins into the mat. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat, last time. Come back to neutral. We're going to walk our hands about a hand print out in front of where they were. And we're going to spiral our pinkies towards the long edges of the mat. Create an L between your thumb and your pointer finger, and that pointer finger is pointing towards the front of your mat. If you drew a line coming directly out of the eye of your right elbow, it would intersect the front left corner of your mat, and then the line from the left eye of the elbow would intersect the top right corner of the mat. Tuck your toes under. Draw your hips back towards your heels. Feel a little opening in the bottoms of your feet. And with an exhale, press into both your hands and your feet and use your core to lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. So creating an upside down V here with our body, creating length from the fingertips to the hips. Lift the backs of your hips up towards the spot where the wall and the ceiling meet behind you. And then take a nice deep bend in your knees to take any rounding out of your low back. On an inhale, look forward towards your hands, and as you exhale, step your left foot behind your left hand, right foot behind the right hand, knees bent as deeply as you can to bring your belly towards your thighs, and then come into a ragdoll. Hook the pinky to the crook of the opposite elbow. Imagine that your lower body is in cement and just sway side to side, anything that feels good. If it feels good to not bring pinkies to elbows, but rather just let your fingertips drag on the ground, that's an option as well. Release the back of your neck and let any tension that you might have brought onto the mat just roll and spill off of your shoulders. For this time that we're on the mat, try just to focus on your breath and your movement. And then as you exhale, bring your fingertips to rest on the mat. Give your bum a squeeze, begin to tuck your tailbone under, and slowly roll up to standing, one vertebrae at a time. On an inhale, draw your shoulders up towards your ears, and as you exhale, loop them down and back into their sockets. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale, shoulders towards ears, and exhale, down and back into the sockets. 1 more. Inhale, shoulders towards ears, and exhale, down and back into their sockets. Bring your palms down by your hips, thumbs facing out, pinkies facing in. Bring your attention to your feet. Press all 4 corners of your feet into the mat, so big toe ball mound, pinky toe ball mound, and then the inner and the outer heel. Lift your toes and notice the lift in your arches. Then I want you to imagine you could lift the skin on your shins, squeeze your quadriceps to lift your kneecaps, and tuck your tailbone under and draw your low belly in. Stay powerful in the legs in this mountain pose. Inhale, tall mountain. Bring the palms up overhead, pinkies in, thumbs out to open the upper back and the chest. And exhale, forward fold. Hinge at your hips. Your hip creases draw back, your chest draws forward, the knees bend, the thumbs come through the third eye, the heart space, and then bring your fingertips to the mat or to those blocks if you need to. And notice how deeply my knees are bent here. I have really tight hamstrings and it does no good for me to force my legs straight. All that does is put extra tension on my low back. On an inhale, come into a halfway lift. Bring your palms into your shins. Guide your hips back. Lengthen your chest forward like you're peeking out over an imaginary cliff. And keep the front of your chest open like in cow pose. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your palms down to the mat. We're going to step our right foot back and then our left foot to join it in a high plank. So shoulders over wrists. Without moving my hands, I'm imagining that I'm pulling my palms back towards my toes, and my toes are pulling forward towards my palms to really turn my abs on. My hips are in line with my shoulders, and I'm pressing through my heels, gazing beyond the edge of my mat. On an inhale breath from your toes or from your knees, you can come down to your knees, you're gonna shift your shoulders forward and then slowly lower down with control, hugging your elbows into the side body, and the entire belly and chest and thighs arrive on the mat at the same time. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet into the mat, and inhale, cobra pose. Peel your chest and your shoulders away from the mat. Hug your elbows in towards one another like little cricket wings. Gaze forward. Exhale, lower, and then from your knees, you're gonna press up to a tabletop. Tuck your toes, hips back towards heels, downward facing dog. You can take some pedals with your feet if that feels good. Inhale, look forward, and exhale, step your right foot behind your right hand, left foot behind the left hand, forward fold. Inhale, find length in your halfway lift, core is engaged, belly draws back towards the spine. Exhale, fold, and inhale, slowly roll up, one vertebra at a time, tall mountain. Keeping that strength in the legs, pulling everything up away from the mat. Exhale, palms to heart center, pull them down, thumbs toward the chest. Inhale, circle sweep the arms out, around, and up. Palms meet, and exhale, pull the thumbs to heart center like you're moving through mud. One more time. Inhale, circle sweep the arms out, around, and up. Exhale as the palms come to heart center, hinge at the hips, forward fold. This is called Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, plant your palms, step the left foot back, then the right into that high plank. And from your toes or from your knees, you're gonna shift forward and slowly lower with control all the way down to your belly. Imagine that you're pulling your elbows back towards your heels. Front body arrives at the same time. Untuck the toes. Inhale, cobra pose. This is a back bend here. Exhale, lower, and from your knees or from your toes, press up and back to downward facing dog. All right, we're gonna flow that one more time. Inhale, gaze forward, and exhale, step your feet behind your hands into a forward fold. I like to practice with my feet hip width distance apart. It feels better on my low back than bringing my feet to touch, but if it feels okay to you, you can bring your feet to touch. Inhale, lengthen, halfway lift, peek out over that imaginary cliff as your hip creases draw back. Exhale, fold, and inhale, tuck your tailbone under and slowly roll up, one vertebra at a time to Tadasana. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, breath, lengthen halfway. Exhale, step back, high plank, top of a push-up. Inhale, shift forward, and exhale with control. Pull your shoulders and your elbows back. The elbows hug into the side body. Inhale, cobra pose. If you'd like, you can try floating your hands here as you squeeze those elbows in towards one another. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog. Step your feet in closer towards one another. Ground your left foot. Inhale, lift your right leg straight back out of your right hip. Flex the toes back towards your knee and turn the big toe in towards the midline of the body. And then imagine that you're lifting from the inseam of that right leg. On an exhale breath, we're gonna step the right foot up to the left right thumb. Lower the left knee down. And we're gonna peel open here into a gentle twist, opening up your chest. Draw that right thumb back. Exhale, bring the hand down to the mat. And inhale, come up, crescent lunge, stacking your head over your shoulders, over your hips. I want you to bring your hands to your hips. And I want you to tug that right hip back, but the right knee is still actively drawing forward. And then the left hip is going to come up and forward. And you're going to feel a really nice opening in the front of that left hip there. Now knit those front ribs in and down and the low belly in and up. Reach the fingertips up, gaze up. And as you exhale, let's grab our blocks, if we have them, or fingertips on the mat, and we're going to sit back into a hamstring stretch. Flex the toes back towards the knee. Inhale, come back up to that crescent lunge, stretching the left hip. And then exhale, palms to the mat, straighten into the right leg, hamstring stretch. Let's do that one more time. Inhale. Low lunge. And exhale, hamstring stretch. Inhale, low lunge. Go ahead and bring the blocks back off to the side. Plant your palms to frame that right foot. Tuck the back left toes, lift the back knee. Step the right foot back and come into downward facing dog. Go ahead and walk the feet in closer towards one another. Ground the right foot this time. Inhale, extend the left leg. Flex the toes back towards the knee. Find that inward rotation. Lift through the inseam of that left leg. And exhale. Use your core with your exhale to step the left foot next to the left thumb. Surrender the right knee down and then peel open into a gentle twist. So hug that right shoulder down into its socket. Look up towards that left thumb. And then draw the left thumb back so that you're really opening the front of your chest here and strengthening the upper back. Bring the hands down to the mat. Go ahead and grab those blocks. Bring them to frame that left foot. And then inhale up to your crescent lunge. So just like in our mountain pose, our pinkies face in towards one another and our thumbs face back. It really opens up the upper back. Engage your core. And exhale, palms to the blocks. Sit back into that hamstring stretch. Inhale, back to that crescent lunge. And exhale, palms to the blocks. Sit back into your hamstring stretch. Flex the toes back towards the left knee. Inhale, low lunge. And exhale, hamstring stretch. Draw the shoulders back away from the ears. Lengthen the torso out of the hips. Inhale, back to that low lunge. Go ahead and bring the palms down to the mat. Frame the left foot. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, and step back to downward facing dog. On your inhale, walk both feet forward. You can take little steps or big steps, whatever feels good to you, into that forward fold. Inhale, lengthen, halfway lift. Active back, active core. Draw the elbows back, just like in Cobra pose. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose, Katasana. Press all four corners of your feet down into the mat and then try to lift your toes. Make sure you can see your toes in front of your knees. Draw your shins back. Tuck your tailbone. These side oblique muscles here in our core should turn on. You should feel your hamstrings and your glutes. And then we're going to take a big inhale, come up to stand. And as we exhale, we're going to step back into warrior two. So my front right knee bends. The toes are tracking out, or the knee is tracking out in the same direction as the middle toes. Give a press into the pinky edge to open the knee. And then the back pinky edge, press into the mat and spiral that back thigh in as the front thigh spirals out. Gaze out lightly over those right fingertips. Flip the palm, inhale, peaceful warrior. Bring the left palm to the left hip. And exhale, extended side angle. Lengthen out of the side body. Reach the left fingertips up towards the ceiling, lengthening the left side body. You can bring the left fingertips forward for an even deeper stretch. Come back up to warrior two. Pivot on your right heel, all 10 toes face the long edge of the mat. And then turn your toes in, heels out. Find a little bit of a bend in the knees. Bring your hands to your hips, lengthen your chest up and your tailbone down. And then again, hinge at your hips, and we're coming into a wide-legged forward fold this time. Crown of the head draws down towards the mat. Relax your shoulders away from your ears and lift the back of your hips. You can bring your hand back there up towards the ceiling. Imagine that you're scrunching the mat together with your feet to keep your inner thighs nice and active. Come up to a halfway lift, flat back here. We're going to walk ourselves forward into a lunge, and then we're going to step back into downward facing dog. Inhale, look forward, and exhale, walk your feet behind your hands, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold, and inhale, bend your knees, chair pose, sit back in that imaginary chair. Bring your palms out, shoulder height, turn your pinkies in, thumbs out. Scoop the low belly in as you tuck the tailbone under. And then bring the fingertips up and gaze up. Imagine hugging something between those inner thighs. Imagine that you had a pillow or that block between your inner thighs. Exhale, sit a little bit lower. And then inhale, come up to stand. And on our exhale, we're going to step our right foot back this time, coming into warrior two, finding that 90-degree bend in the left knee, heel to arch alignment. So if there was a line down the center of your mat, your front heel and your back arch would be on that line. And now without actually moving your feet, I want you to pull your feet closer towards one another and notice these muscles in the inner thighs firing up. Tuck your tailbone under, scoop your low belly in. Hug an imaginary pencil between your shoulders as you extend your fingertips long, and then imagine you're pressing down on a shelf to really engage the muscles in the arms. Inhale, flip the front palm, peaceful warrior. Exhale, lengthen, extended side angle. Legs stay exactly the same. We're looking up towards those right fingertips as we use that left elbow to peel that left knee open just a bit more. And we're finding a spiraling here. So these upper right ribs are drawing back. The bottom left ribs are drawing forward, and the chest is opening up towards the ceiling. Use your core, come back up to warrior two. Pivot on the left heel this time. Heels in, or toes in, heels out. Palms to the hips. Lift the chest, tailbone draws under. Hinge at your hips so the hip creases draw back as the chest pulls forward. And then keep a slight bend in the knees and come into a forward fold. This time we're going to walk both hands over to the right foot, giving a press into that left palm and then guiding both shoulders down and back into their sockets. Come back through center. Exhale, walk both hands over to the left foot. Level the shoulders, so loop them both down and back into their sockets. And then come back to center in that halfway lift, flat back like you were resting a cup of tea or coffee on your low back. So one hip isn't up and one isn't down, it's very level. And then go ahead and walk yourself into a low lunge at the front of the mat. Step your left foot back, downward facing dog. Noticing how different you feel here in this last downward facing dog than you did in our first downward facing dog. And then go ahead and walk your feet through, coming to a seat. And we're going to come up into a boat pose, so working our core just a tiny bit before we finish. Bring your palms behind your thighs, loop your shoulders down and back into their sockets, your chest lifts towards the ceiling. Draw the low belly back in and up, and then knit these front ribs in towards one another and draw them down. Keeping that strength in your core and the lift in your chest, you can begin to tabletop your shins, and then go ahead and extend your arms out in front of you. And again, my pinkies are facing in, my thumbs are facing out. It allows me to drop my shoulders down into their sockets, opening the front of my chest and strengthening my upper back. And then imagine that you're hugging a block between these inner thighs. Whew, might be shaking a little bit. And then slowly roll down onto your back. We're going to come up into a bridge pose. So walk your heels in towards your hips. We want our knees in line with our toes, and we want our feet hip width distance apart. Imagine you're squeezing something between your inner thighs, a block, a pillow. Exhale, notice how your core turns on. Keep that engagement on your inhale. Press the backs of your arms, your palms, your forearms into the mat, and lift your hips as you press into all four corners of your feet. So what we don't want to do is overextend. We don't want to just like shove our hips up towards the ceiling. We want to keep our core engaged. Press into the feet. Notice how the hamstrings turn on, the glutes turn on. And then this is a nice counter pose to the cobra poses in the back bending that we did here. And then slowly lower down onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. You can rock side to side. We're going to cross our right knee over our left, and we're going to hug both knees in towards our chest here, but keeping your tailbone on the mat. If it works for you, you can bring your palms down to your shins. You can even give your shins a little massage here if that feels good. And then keep the back of your head on the mat, your neck soft, your shoulders on the mat. And hug those knees in for a nice opening for the outer hips. And then you can either cactus your arms or extend your arms out long, and we're going to let our knees come over to the left and our gaze over to the right. And I'm not forcing the knees down onto the mat. It's my feet that are resting on the mat, and there is a space between my knees and the mat. Let's focus on keeping this right shoulder on the mat. And then feeling a nice stretch in the left side of your neck as you gaze towards the right. And then go ahead and come back to center. Uncross the knees. You can hug them in and then just rock side to side for a nice massage here as you neutralize your spine. And we're going to cross the left leg on top of the right. And we're going to hug the knees in towards the chest. And again, if you can keep your tailbone flat on the mat and not scrunch up your neck or your shoulders, you're just going to slide those fingertips down your shins, and you're going to hug the knees in towards your chest. And imagine breathing some space into those outer hips. And then when you're ready, with cactus arms or arms out like a T, we're going to twist the knees over towards the right, and we're going to gaze out towards the left. Inhaling to find length along your spine, and then exhaling to twist just the tiniest bit deeper. And then exhale, come back to center, unbind, and we're going to just turn some circles with our knees towards the left. And then stop at center, and we're going to turn some circles towards the right. And then wrap your forearms around your shins. Draw your forehead up towards your knees. Take the deepest inhale you've taken yet today. And with an open mouth exhale, come into Shavasana. Stretching your legs long, feet come wide towards the wider edges of the mat. Toes can fall out towards the side. Give a little press into the back of your head to lift your shoulders, and then snuggle them down in towards one another. Palms face up, and just give yourself permission to be heavy and to take up space here. And in Shavasana is where I'm going to leave us. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope you enjoyed this practice. I hope you picked up on some new ways to move your body, some amazing calming and grounding